Check, test, 1, 2, 1, 2. It sounds like it's probably going to be okay. Hey, good evening, everybody. 7 o'clock, it is okay. Hi, TR back with you. It's Tuesday night, and you'll have to excuse me if I'm sniffling and snuffling because I've got a bit of a cold. Not feeling 100%, not even feeling 80%, maybe 40. So, bear with me. We'll get through this. It may not be a full hour tonight, but I'll stick around as long as we got questions coming in. And echo, huh? Okay, so what's going on here? Let's see. Hang on a minute here. We got something not working. Oh, I see what it is. Okay, is that better? Check, test, 1, 2. Let's see. Oops. And echo, huh? Okay, so what's going on here? Let's see. Something not working. Oh, I see what it is. Okay, is that better? Yeah, that's better. Okay, good. Thanks for the thanks for the heads up. Yeah, I had 2 microphones turned on. I told you I wasn't 80%. We're getting closer to 50 now, maybe 40. Hi, good evening. It's Tuesday night. I hope everybody had a great week. The weather here sucks. I'll tell you what. Spring feels so late. I usually like to kick around here for just a minute, let everybody get in before we start tonight's topic, which is, or was, suggested by Tom Downey, and that is what you can and can't carry across the border. Well, it's mostly what you can't carry across the borders of Mexico and Canada in your RV, and it was quite an interesting topic to research, so we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go over to the chat window and see who all's here tonight. I'm a little dark tonight, aren't I? Am I missing something light-wise here? Let's see. Well, that's a little better. Okay. My ring light finally gave up the ghost. The story behind my ring light was I pulled it out of a garbage can. And it worked great. I saw it sit in a garbage can. I thought, well, at least I can use the stand. And I did, but anyway, let's see who all's on the chat tonight. Robert Black's in. Scotty's in. Tom Downey checking in. Looks like Eric Myers and Tim is in. Kevin Coop is in from Missouri. Good to see you, Kev. Let's see who else is here. George, a.k.a. Dad. Gary D's in from Arizona. And yeah, so if you're just getting in, be sure and drop a comment over in the chat window so we know who you are and where you're watching from. And that would be very greatly appreciated. So yeah, tonight we're going to talk about what you can and cannot, well, mostly what you cannot cross the borders with in your RV. And I actually did something different on this one because I wanted to be able to do a presentation and also monitor the chat, and in the past I've had trouble with that. I wanted to kind of watch the chat so that when the presentation's done, we'll come back, we'll circle back on your questions, and I didn't really get a chance to test this very well, so we're going to give this a try and see how it works. Of course, your feedback is always greatly appreciated. So let's try this. I am going to go ahead and do this. I pre-recorded this so I could monitor the chat while it plays and interact with you, the viewers of the live stream tonight. So tonight we're talking about navigating border crossings in your RV, focusing on Mexico and Canada because those are obviously the two that might be crossed. I mean, you could go to Guatemala, but you're on your own for that one. And this is a suggested question from Tom Downey, a regular viewer on the live stream, so thanks a lot, Tom. If you would like to suggest a topic you want to see covered, go ahead and throw a chat comment in, and we'll consider it. Remember, this information may be outdated or incomplete, and you should consult the respective country's custom authority for the most up-to-date information. The lists presented may also not reflect a complete list of prohibited items. Again, you're on your own to sort that out. Entering Mexico from the U.S. Obviously, firearms and ammunition without a permit, handguns, rifles, shotguns, ammunition, anything like that, if you don't have a permit, don't take it. Illegal drugs and controlled substances, well, that's pretty obvious. Except I'll note that your prescription drugs should be with a valid prescription, and the way to prove that is just take them in the bottle that came in. Explosive materials, dynamite, blasting caps, detonating cords, tannerite, any of that kind of stuff. Endangered species, ivory, tiger skin, certain exotic birds and plants are prohibited. Also, counterfeit currency and goods like fake designer bags, watches, and counterfeit money. Pornographic material, don't take it. Fresh fruits and vegetables, although this is not a comprehensive list, and it depends on where you got the fresh fruit and vegetables, they may be prohibited from entering. If you bought them from a grocery store, then you're probably okay. If you bought them from a roadside stand, they're generally prohibited. And plants and plant products, orchids, cacti, and certain flower bulbs, again, are prohibited from entering Mexico. Now, let's look at coming back into the United States from Mexico, because there's a few more things on the list. Everything on the entering list is prohibited, plus archaeological artifacts, certain wildlife plants and their products, sea turtle, coral, those kinds of things, large quantities of cash. And in fact, you need to declare whether you're going into or out of Mexico, this applies to Canada as well, anything more than $10,000. That includes bundles of banknotes, traveler's checks, money orders, anything like that. If it's more than $10,000, you need to declare it, or it might be seized at the border. And then, of course, unauthorized export of agricultural commodities, like bulk grains, seeds, unprocessed agricultural products without the proper documentation. Again, say you stopped at a roadside stand and bought something on the way out of Mexico. Technically, you should not be bringing that into the United States. All right, so now let's look at entering Canada from the United States. The list is very similar to what we saw in Mexico. Firearms and weapons without a permit, handguns, rifles, shotguns, ammunition, explosive, fireworks, and ammunition, firecrackers, rockets, dynamite, tannerite, any of those sorts of things are prohibited. Controlled drugs and substances, again, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, prescription drugs without a valid prescription. Again, take the prescription in the bottle you got it in from the pharmacy, and you should be okay. Obscene materials, obvious. Fresh fruits and vegetables, again, not a comprehensive list, but apples, oranges, potatoes, and tomatoes, etc., that are bought from roadside stands. If you buy it from a grocery store, you're probably okay. Plants and plant products, seeds and cuttings, orchids, cacti, certain flower bulbs, those sorts of things are prohibited. Also, live animals and animal products, raw meat, poultry, dairy products, eggs, and honey, again, bought from a roadside stand or something like that. Generally, if you get it at the grocery store, you should be okay. You shouldn't be taking any soil, hay, or straw into Canada. Garden soil, bales of hay and straw are prohibited. Certain wood products are prohibited. They don't want to be transporting invasive pests into Canada. Pathogen infected materials, diseased plants, plant parts or seeds, endangered species, counterfeit money and goods, bags, watches, counterfeit money, etc. should not be taken into Canada. And don't forget to declare you're bringing $10,000 or more into this country. And now looking at exiting Canada back into the U.S., everything on the entering list again, plus archaeological artifacts, certain wildlife and plants, large quantities of cash, again more than 10,000 US dollars, unauthorized export of agricultural commodities, bulk grade seeds, and so on and so forth. Those things are all prohibited from coming back into the U.S. once you've gone into Canada. So what should you expect when you're searched at the border? Well, the Mexican or Canadian customs officers have the right to inspect your vehicle at any time for any reason, so keep these things in mind. Be prepared for a thorough search. Customs officers might want to go through your personal belongings, storage compartments, the undercarriage of your RV. They might even run you through an X-ray device to take a cross-section look at your RV. In all cases, stay patient and cooperative. The search is going to take some time, but remember that the officers are just doing their job. Stay calm, be polite, and follow any instructions given. Don't be an ass. And be honest, if you're unsure about any item in your RV, it's better to ask the officers than to risk the penalties for an undeclared or prohibited item. Honesty will go a long way in those situations. Just a quick look at some potential customs penalties. They include fines. Monetary fines might be imposed for undeclared or prohibited items. The amount of the fine will usually depend on the value of the goods and or the severity of the offense. Again, customs officials may confiscate your items if they are prohibited or restricted, and or if they are not properly declared, and or if they are not allowed to be brought into the country or taken out of the country. Legal charges in some cases may result, particularly for more severe offenses like smuggling, illegal drugs, weapons, counterfeit goods. You may face criminal charges and prosecution, and you may face jail time depending upon the severity of the violation and the applicable laws in the country. Jail time might be imposed for serious offenses like drug smuggling, weapons trafficking, or illegal wildlife trade. Finally, you might face travel restrictions. Individuals who repeatedly violate customs regulations or commit serious offenses might be denied entry into the country they're trying to enter or into other countries. The final take-home message is border agents don't care what T.R. Boland said. It's important to note that this is just a general overview. The specifics are related to the country, and you're on your own to figure out what you should and shouldn't be taking into or out of a country when you're traveling to it in your RV. If you follow the rules and regulations, you shouldn't have any troubles. Be honest at the border, and I hope you found this presentation valuable. Thanks for watching. All right, so let me make sure that I got my mics back on. Okay, it looks good. Alrighty, so that, in a nutshell, is the list. I will now, I'll do this so we can kind of look in more detail at the material. Just a minute here, I'm getting things set up so I can see what's going on. All right, so firearms and ammunition are always an issue or a question people have. And I'm going to defer, it sounds like earlier in the chat, Tom was mentioning about permits. And so, Tom, are those permits that you get from Canada? Because I'm assuming you probably go to Canada, being up there in Whidbey and close to the Canadian border. So is that paperwork you get from Canada, or is that stuff you can download online and fill out so you can carry? Also, that's what I'm working on now, Peggy, is figuring out whether when I say a permit, I'm assuming that's going to be permission from the authorities that you're carrying a firearm. Now, handguns are absolutely permitted, period, and I believe that's true. But on the carrying of long arms, shotguns, rifles, and those sorts of things, into Canada, I think you can go in and you have to have a permit from the Canadian authorities. We're going to defer to Tom on that. It sounds like he probably knows more about that than I do, and that would not be a surprise. So we'll download the paper on the internet. Okay, so you you can. And I know, people go hunting in Canada, they go hunting in Mexico and stuff like that. And so it's going to be a permit that you're going to get from the state authority that you're entering, whether it be Mexico or Canada. Hope that helps, Peggy. Hi, Judy. It's nice to have you here tonight. Explosive materials. I added tannerite in there because I know I had a friend of mine that was going into Canada, and he got caught with some tannerite. He forgot it was in his RV. And of course, customs is going to find stuff you forgot about. That's the fact of the matter. And so don't take it. If you have any questions, just don't take it. Scotty, he says it's from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, form number 5589, and a $25 fee. Okay, perfect. So that's good to know. And any other questions that might come up? I think pretty much this is pretty obvious. The thing that I think trips a lot of folks up are the fresh fruits and those sorts of things. I've crossed, this happens when you go into California. I mean, if you get stopped by the produce police when you enter California at one of their check stations and you have produce that wasn't procured in a grocery store, then they're going to ask you to deposit it in the garbage can there at the entry point. The main reason that is that they're trying to stop, bad things from getting into the country and devastating, the apple harvest or the strawberries or whatever else come from mostly Mexico. I think most of our fruits and vegetables, at least in the United States, are going to come from Mexico. So I think that's probably going to be the bigger thing. But again, crossing in across the border, they're going to ask you, what you have, and if it's stuff you bought from the grocery store, generally you're going to be okay. And George just commented that Florida has produce check stations. Interesting. I have not been into Florida for many years. And the last time I was there, I flew. So they didn't check us because I didn't have a box of apples with me when I landed at the airport. So that's interesting. But yeah, California has their produce check stations. They're not always open, I've noticed, but in general, if you go through, they'll stop and ask you, where you got the fruit, vegetables from. If you got them from a grocery store, they tend to be okay with that kind of stuff. I think what's interesting, and I've seen videos of this, I have not personally seen this, but my bad. What is going on here? Oh my gosh. What is going on here? Something. Sorry, folks. I made a change. I got new software again, and for some reason, is the
country when you're traveling to it.
Let me catch up here.
Permission from the authorities.
All right, sorry, yeah. Another glitch I've got to repair. I had... Technology sometimes really makes me irritated. Let me go back over here and see what's going on. All right, so I don't get it. I'm going to just come back to this and go to that and see what's going on here. Hopefully everything's okay. Sorry about the glitches in the stream tonight. I probably should have ran a test. I haven't been feeling well. You'll have to excuse me for a minute because I do need to clear my throat because I've got a horrible cold. Pardon me. I spent most of the day on the couch watching Star Trek, Adam 12, Hogan's Heroes, whatever I could stream on TV. So I apologize for that. Anyway, it does look like it's okay over on YouTube, on the tubes. Let me see here how bad it looks. Seems to be okay. All right, we're back into normal mode here. Yeah, okay, sorry about all of the confusion tonight, folks. Appreciate your patience. We'll do a little test run the next time before I do something new and fancy like doing the video presentation offline. Let's see. George, aka Dad, says we are the test. Yep, you are the test tonight, that's for sure. Okay, so if there are any other questions or comments about that, feel free to put them over in the chat window. And also, there's going to be an article it'll post on my website on Thursday. It posts early Thursday morning that has all this material in it, as well as the little pre-prepared presentation that I did, a little voiceover on the PowerPoint slides that I put together for this. Two Feathers are checking in. Good evening, too. Nice to see you here. Okay, so yeah, I got an email from George, aka Dad. He was wanting to know about checking his tire pressures at night before he departs. The question he had was, does it have any impact if the bus is level, taking up the load off the tires? Absolutely. You need to check your pressures with the full weight of the chassis, the full weight of the RV on the tires. Also, you should try to check those tires when they're around ambient temperature, somewhere between 60 and say 72 degrees. That will get you the closest that will get you close to where you should be. But yeah, it does require that you have the RV or the coach sitting on the ground with the tires at ambient temperature, whatever it is outside, 60 to 72. Not hot, not 90 degrees. If you can avoid it, you want to try to do it in the morning. If you're in a hot climate, try to get it in the morning when it's somewhere between 60 and 72. Keep in mind, when I first put my tire pressure monitoring system on my RV, I got, I freaked out a little bit, to be honest with you, and I started watching it way too much, and then I got freaked out even more. But what happens is as your tires roll down the road, they get hot, they warm up. And that's just from friction. The tires running on the road causes friction, and friction turns into heat. And so, that's why you want to check your tires at an appropriate level. I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze here, I think. Feels like it. Anyway, between 60 and 72 days. Okay, it says... the other thing is on your rig, George, you can get a little faster... Okay, on the new Mars, and on other coaches too, usually diesel Class A pushers, it's possible to add a air chuck, usually in the front underneath the hood, where you can use the chassis, your engine chassis air compressor to fill your tires. Now, if you want to go to high idle, and this is on the Freightliner chassis, and I believe this is good up through probably at least 2012 that I know of. With the cruise control turned off, hit the resume, and that will kick it up into high idle, usually take it up around 11 or 1200 RPMs. It depends, it varies from coach to coach, but that will bring you up to a higher idle speed, and that will run your compressor a little faster and give you a little bit more air. Correct, Tom. Tom says before they roll in the morning. Correct, yes. John Besnick, failed tires to recommended max pressure? No. Yes and no. Okay, tires have inflation charts associated with them, particularly on your Class A's, Class C's. Well, any RV, any tire has an inflation chart. Let me see. I might have one here I can grab real quick. That we can quickly take a look at. Hold on, I found it. I'm just trying to find. Here we go. Okay, let me pull this over here. And let me get this over here. Let me do some reorganizing here. And let's do this. Okay, now you should be seeing a tire inflation chart. Let me zoom this up a little bit so it's a little easier to read. So, for example, let's look at first a 16-inch typical trailer tire, okay? And let's say you've got an LT 215 85R16 and it's this ages cross climate or whatever, okay? The way you read these charts is that the PSI is the amount of pressure in it, and then in the column is the weight you can safely carry on that tire. Okay, so looking at this one, if it's at 40 psi, you can carry 1,640 pounds. Let's go down here for RV and go find 22.5s, because those are pretty typical. And let's just use this one, a 365 70R 22.5. Now that's one of those big, fat, wide tires. Okay, and of course on a single axle at 80 psi, you can safely carry 7,350 pounds. All right, so the takeaway message here is, oops, did you not, I'm sorry, I am so fuzzy tonight. I did not do this. Okay, sorry, I didn't have the chart up there, my bad. Apologize for that. Okay, so anyway, if we look at the chart here, what I was going to say is, let me come back here real quick and pop this over here real quick and then transition back to the full camera. The main reason that we always recommend that you get your weight on your coach is so that you can figure out how much weight you have on your axles. Okay? This is true of any RV. When you take it to get it weighed, it should have everything in it that you normally carry or tow. So if you have a fifth wheel, and let's say you normally tow it full of water, full propane tanks, all of the gear that you're going to be carrying with it, that's the way you want to weigh it, because you want to know how much that thing weighs when you're rolling down the road. Okay? With that said, once you have that, let's talk about my particular RV. Hang on here, folks. Let me grab a book. Because I think I still have, maybe not. I used to have some weight tickets here. In RVs, they like to tell you to get 4 corner weights, particularly on rolling chassis RVs, Class C. Sorry. Class C and Class D. Excuse me, Class C and Class A. I told you I was tired and I've got a bad cold. You want to get 4 corner weights if at all possible. Stopping at the CAT scale, at the truck stop, you cannot get 4 corner weights. But don't let that deter you. At least get your weights. It's going to give you an idea of how much weight you're carrying on that axle. Okay? For example, in my Class A, on the front axle, I ran around 12,000 pounds. You assume, if you can't get 4 corner weights, that weight is more or less equally distributed. And so you cut it in half or you split it in half. So what that would mean is that each of those tires is carrying 6,000 pounds. Okay? 6,000 pounds per tire. Then you would go over to the inflation chart. Let me slide myself out of the way here. And go find the tires that you're carrying. These are 19. Let's see if there's another 22. No, so Michelin only makes a 20. This 365, big fat one. And if you have, and so they're not listing dual. This is a bad one. Let me see if we can find something that shows duals. Okay, truck tires are close enough. That's going to tell us what we want to know. And now we're back into the sort of the range that you're going to find on your average Class A RV. Like the 275 80R 22.5s. Those are a nice heavy-duty tire, and you can safely carry 800 pounds at 75 PSI. I saw a comment fly by. And I'll go back to the comments here in a minute. If you have a dual tire situation, in other words, you have, a dual rear axle tire, then for all intents and purposes, it doesn't quite double it, but it's close. And that's why they have dual tires on the rear of RVs, especially self-propelled, is because you've got more weight usually on the rear than you have on the front. So, to answer your question, you should understand how much weight you have on your tires via axles, so on and so forth, okay? And then you should use a tire inflation chart like the one I was showing you for your tires, whatever they are. You should be able to find it online, and then you set your tire pressures appropriately. Now, I saw Kevin Coop say you should put the air pressure in your tires according to the label in your RV. Yes, that's absolutely true if you're carrying the maximum weight that RV is rated for. if you're not, and you have all that pressure in your tires, it really makes the ride rough. And so most folks with the Class A RV, same with trailers, you can adjust that pressure so that you're running at a pressure appropriate for how much weight you have on those tires. If in doubt, then fill them to the pressure as listed on the label in the RV. There's always going to be a label in there somewhere that says, here's the capacity of this RV, here's the tires you should be running on it, and here's the pressure you should be running in the tires. Yeah, that's a good point. George, aka Dad, says it. All right, the situation you can run into is that, especially like if you're using your chassis compressor to fill your tires, if the air pressure in the air system on your chassis drops below whatever the pressure is you're trying to achieve in your tires, then you're not going to get anywhere, okay? The compressor must be capable of generating enough pressure to get the tires to the pressure you want them. So in other words, if you have one of those little portable compressors, and let's say it's only rated at 80 psi and you need 90 psi in your tires, that compressor will never make 90 psi. So when you go to buy a portable compressor, you want to make sure that it's capable of filling those tires up to a level that you want to run them at so that it's safe. George says the first time they were at Spartan, they did corner weights for them and gave them the tire pressures based on the weight and the tire specifications. Yeah, that's a good point. And 4 corner weights is always best because if you think about it, in your RV, on one side you're going to have fridges and all kinds of stuff, and that's probably going to make that side weigh a little bit more than the side that has the bed or whatever it might be in it. So that's the value and the value of getting 4 corner weights. Yeah, no, you cannot do corner weights at cat scales, period. They will not do it. You can't do it because of the way their platforms are built. They're built to do trucks, and they usually do it by the axle. Scotty says that's a little bit too much like NASCAR. It is to a certain extent, yes. I mean, the safe thing to do is run it with the tire pressure that's listed on the RV. Okay, there's going to be a placard, a sticker in the RV that's going to say it carries this much weight, uses this kind of tire, run this much air in it. And that's the safe way to run. You can absolutely do that. You can be absolutely safe. You're probably not going to get as smooth a ride as you would if you ran it, say, a little less than the maximum rated rate. Because what they're doing is they're going to say your maximum weight on the rear axle is 20,000 pounds. And they're going to give you the pressures that would safely carry 20,000 pounds in the tire size that's rated for your vehicle. In trailers, it's probably not as important because there's nobody riding in the trailer. Well, there shouldn't be. Two Feathers says you can't carry as much as you think you can. That's the truth. And in fact, Two, didn't you run into a situation when you went and got weight and you found out that you were overweight? I seem to remember us having a discussion about that several months ago when you were trying to figure out if you could haul Eric's motorcycle with you. I'm sorry, Tom, I have to disagree with you that carrying the highest pressure that will produce a flat tread without us, he said sage, but he means sag, in the sidewall. I don't think that's appropriate because depending upon what the tire is, and there's all kinds of things that can, cause the sidewalls to bulge, and they could still be even above pressure, above a rated pressure if you're overweight. So I don't think that's a good way to do it. I think you need to, at a minimum, Thanks, Tim. Yeah, at a minimum, you should. I'm going to run over here and see. Yeah, Tim sent me a cat scale ticket. Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. Let me pop this over here. And let me do a little bit of screen swapping here. Let me zoom this up a little bit. So here's a typical cat scale ticket. This is from Tim. And you'll see here, on his steer axle, he has 8,820 pounds. So by what we're talking about, if we take half of that, that's 4,410 pounds on each of his steer tires. On the drive axle, he's got, we'll say 15,000 to make the math easy. That means there's 7,500 on each side of the drive axle. And then if you have 4 tires, that again splits that up. So that makes it around 3,700 pounds per tire, give or take. These are rough numbers. Okay. And so those are the numbers you want to use when you're topping your tires off. The way I ran my Class A, the way I ran mine is that I ran 110 in the front, because I would run around 12,000 on the front axle. And then I would run 90 on the rear, in each of the rear tires. And it was smooth as silk. It felt really good when it was rolling down the road. Let's see. Going to come back over here to the chat. Oh, that's an interesting thing, Kevin. Yeah, some info. He says square inches of the tire touching the surface concrete times PSI in the tire will be within 10% of real weight. That's interesting to know. Vincent RV Life. Hi, Bruce. It's good to see you tonight. Yeah, Escapees Club has locations where they do 4-corner weights. A lot of times at rallies, at owners' rallies, they'll do 4-corner weights. I actually, I did get a 4-corner weight on my RV back in 2016 when I went to the Newmar rally. The guy came around. He had a really cool system with just 4 plates where he could stick them underneath the tires and do 4-corner weights. But I never, after I replaced the fridge, after I did battery work, after I did a bunch of work on the, on the interior of the RV, moving a few things around and changing a few things around, I'm sure my 4-corner weights changed significantly enough that I was just doing it by the by the axle weights. Tom says, been doing that way for 50 years, long before we got fancy. Yeah, totally. If it works for you, that's fine. I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I'm just telling you what the best practice is. You can do it however you want. And if it works for you, that's great. I just have found that, sometimes tires, if they don't have, some tires have soft sidewalls. And so they sag a little bit, even though they're at full pressure. Even if they're not loaded, they'll have a little sag in them. And depending upon, you might not be sitting on the ground properly. Or, there's all kinds of things that go into it. The other thing is, and I want to mention this, cheap tire gauges can kill you. Okay? In fact, I've got an article on my website where I talk about tires and tire maintenance. In fact, I would like to invite you to run over and check that out if you're so inclined, because I've got a lot better discussion about it in there, and that's on how to maintain your tires and what the best practices are. I'm going to go pop that up here real quick. In fact, it's my top 10 tire maintenance tips. And I'm going to pull this over here so you all can see it. I got to reorganize the screens. I'll go to this and then do this, and now we're back here. Okay, so yeah, I've got this a pretty nice article on tire maintenance tips, and there's 10 of them here. But I was talking about cheap tire pressure gauges, and try to avoid them if you can, because they can rate as much as 10 to 15% off. And that will get you in trouble even before you roll down the road. So, yeah, don't go with a cheap gauge. Buy the gauge, and also try to avoid those digital gauges because they will fail at the most inopportune time. All right, you're going to be out somewhere. You're going to want to be able to use that gauge, and the damn thing, the battery's going to be dead, and you're not going to have a little coin cell battery to change it with. So, stick with a good old-fashioned tire gauge. You just can't go wrong. The ones that a lot of the tire shops use are, let's see, I think it's Samson. Just a minute here, I'm looking them up real quick for you. Excuse me. The Milton gauge is one of the best ones on the market out there, and I recommend the Milton S 976. They're $20 on Amazon. They are good to 150 psi, and yeah, don't try to get cheap with your tire gauge. It can get you in trouble really fast. Back to the chat. Yeah, FMCA will do four corner weights at their rallies. Oh yeah, Two Feathers was saying, yeah, they were 800 pounds overweight before the bike. No, well, Scotty, I did get into one safety inspection station in Illinois in 2016. They had some kind of a blitz going where they were stopping every large vehicle, towed trailers, towed RVs, Class C's, Class A's, trucks, and they were pulling everybody into the side and doing safety inspections. Technically, they could stop you if you were overweight from rolling down the road until you lost some weight. And they probably would because they don't have much of a sense of humor about that. Here's the situation I got into. I stopped for the safety. They got out. They checked everything. I mean, it was a full safety inspection, right? They checked brakes. They checked the tire. They did everything. They had 40 officers there. This was on US 385. I was headed, I think it was 385 in Illinois. Anyway, but it was in Illinois. I do remember this. It was just north of Springfield. I was headed north out of Springfield. This is 2017. And I got stopped for a safety inspection, and I passed it, except when the guy got out from underneath my rig, and he got up and he grabbed a hold of the mirror arm, and he hit my mirror, and the mirror had flopped over. Okay, the dirty little secret was I knew it was in trouble. The set screw that was holding it in tight was stripped, okay? So it was being held on, by a prayer and a dream. And they were going to stop me. They were going to stop me from rolling down the road because I didn't have the rear mirror on the passenger side. Okay, well, I got some duct tape out, which is why it's a good idea to carry duct tape with you, and I duct taped it and got it so that it was set. And in fact, I made the officer who effed it up stand there and help me get it adjusted, and then I made him just stand there and hold it while I taped it. And then the next town I got to, I went in and I bought some 3/8 helicoils and fixed it properly so it wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, that was a kind of a funky situation there in Illinois on the safety inspection. And I've talked to a lot of folks who have never ever seen that happen. They had some kind of blitz going on. It was some kind of statewide thing, and that happened to be the region they were focusing on. And they had, it was at least 40. They had at least 6 of those portable weight stations you'll see, in some states where they don't have a permanent weight station, but they got the truck with the plates, and they'll have you pull over. And if you're a truck, commercial, but they were stopping everybody, RVs. Fifth wheels, they were stopping them all and checking them all. All right, kind of catching up on the comments here. Yeah, the tire sidewall does give max pressure, correct? Where did you get it weighed to? If you got it weighed at cat scale, they don't care. They don't know. They're not in enforcement. They're only there to help a trucker not get an overweight ticket if he's rolling down the road. Tim, yeah, that's about where I ran mine. Tim had Toyos. He says he runs 100 on his steers, 85 in the rears. Yeah, Kevin, it only costs you $15. Take it out. It's worth the money to get it weighed. And that, yeah, it's just, it's just good practice, really, for $12. Yeah, we are late. Thanks for the reminder, Scotty. I forget to, if you like this video, be sure and give me that thumbs up. Always appreciate that. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, ring the notification bell. You guys' support of the channel through my links in Amazon, which will take you over to Amazon, and then you can go buy anything on Amazon. I'll get this small commission. You pay the same price. Is super valuable, super helpful, as is, using the other affiliate links I have for RecPro and Renogy. I haven't been able to finalize the other affiliates that I'm working on, but we're getting closer, I think. Visit my website, trbolin.com. Lots of great articles over there that aren't on my YouTube channel. And so, yeah, your support is always super appreciated. Yeah, some of the cheaper tire monitor systems do leak. I had a little problem with a tire monitor, one of the dongles on one of my tires, and I contacted EEZ, and they replaced it, no questions asked. Scotty, they don't check weight. They don't check when you hit Cali, at least as far as I know, and I've been in and out of California many times in my Class A. And I know they don't check weight. What they're checking for is agricultural products that they don't want brought into the state because you might be bringing in the next med fly. Cat scales are usually readily available at Flying J, Love's, TA, any of the truck stops. Just pull onto the scale and tell them that they're going to ask you what your truck number is. Just tell them it's a private RV. Give them your name, and then when you go in, they'll have your ticket there, and it's like $12. Yes, Kevin, thanks for the reminder. Kevin sent me a note last week about refilling the 1 pound propane tanks. And I did go out and do a little research on that. Let me see here if I can dig that up real quick. The information I got on that, because it is kind of serious. I know it's pretty common that people will refill 1 pound propane cylinders. The worst penalty that I could find is pretty serious. What I could find is that the worst penalty for refilling a 1 pound propane cylinder is going to depend on the specific jurisdiction where the offense occurred. In some places, it may be a civil infraction with a fine or citation, while other places it could be considered a criminal offense with the possibility of a fine or even imprisonment. For example, in the United States, the DOT, Department of Transportation, has regulations that prohibit the transportation of refilled 1 pound propane cylinders. Violating these regulations could result in civil penalties, including fines up to $78,376 per violation And additionally, in some states or locales, there may be specific laws or regulations that prohibit filling these cylinders. If there's a wreck and a death is involved, you're on your own. However, the question I have, how can you determine that the 1 pound propane cylinder that you have with you was refilled and is not a factory fill from, your favorite sporting goods store, whatever it may be, Dick's, Sportsman's Warehouse, whatever. Does anybody know the answer to that? I don't. How could you tell? How could they tell that you had refilled a propane cylinder? There's no... I don't know. Maybe there's something that I don't know. Maybe somebody that's more in the know about that might be able to tell me. But I don't know how they could tell. Do you know, Kevin? Question mark. Is there a way that they can tell that the cylinder's been refilled, other than perhaps it's got more than 1 pound of propane in it? Because just like any other propane tank, you only really want to fill them to 80% of capacity, because you need headroom in that tank for the gas to form. Because when you fill a propane tank, it's filled with liquid. And then there's headroom in the tank that the liquid, gasifies, and then in the headroom, in the headspace in the tank, it turns into gas, and then the gas is what is burned or used by the appliance or the device that's running on propane. So I'm not sure. I suppose, multiple cans with plastic caps removed. Good question, good one. Keep your plastic caps, I guess. Yes, Tim, it is the same exact propane that you would use in your RV. And in fact, a lot of guys, you'll see them refilling those tanks off of a 5 or a 30 pounder, a 20 pounder propane tank. There you go. Road Ranger is where Tom gets his cat scales work done. Hi, Montana boy. So nice to see you here tonight. I was going to say 1,000, but yeah, Tim, you're right. There are hundreds of YouTube videos on how to refill those number 1 cans, and in fact, you can see the devices, the widgets that you use to refill them with. You find them just about anywhere too. In fact, I'm not so sure I didn't see one at Camping World last year when I was in there looking for something. Okay, Kevin says, check my email for federal law. Okay, thanks, I will. Tom Downey says, our 1 pound tanks have a check valve and their necks will not fill. Gary D, not all 1 pound bottles are the same. Good to know. Interesting, yeah. Hi, Joy. So nice to see you here. Where are you tonight? What time is it? Wow, 7:53. Time is flying. Can you guys excuse me for just 1 minute? I totally need to blow my nose. My cold is catching up. I didn't bring anything, so hang on. Clearly it's time that I cleaned off the desk that sits behind me, huh? I've been working on my dad's taxes, so that's the pile of mess from that mess. Kevin says it's not illegal to fill them, it is illegal to transport. Oh, okay, good to know. Scott Mogich says he fills 1 pound Coleman bottles with no issues. I totally do. I totally know people that do it. I've never done it. I've never really had a device that used those, 1 pound propane cylinders. My Coleman stove is an old white gas that's 70 years old, that you put white gas in and pump it up. My Coleman lantern is also a white gas lantern. and it's got to be 80 years old. I'm sure that my great-grandfather owned both of these devices, and lo and behold, you can still get the generators for them, which is, what makes them work. But Montana Boy, got a question for you. How would I clean a ceiling that has fine crush fabric? It's like crush white, not very long, 3/16. It's getting dark from cooking, I think. Any ideas? I would experiment with OxyClean. And so what I would do is I would get a brush. And first off, I would, brush the fabric carefully. Then I would make a paste with OxyClean or some solution with OxyClean, and I would try it in a corner in a closet, someplace where it's out of sight. And I think I would try OxyClean. And OxyClean is extremely good at doing, removing stains like that. However, if it's grease, I don't know how well OxyClean would work on grease. Does anybody have any ideas on that? Slowly getting darker. He thinks it's from propane. Sooty. Okay. I'd try the OxyClean. Yep. It's pretty good solution. It's pretty good at removing stains. I've pulled stains out of carpets before with OxyClean. But Hubbard, Ohio. Good to see. Thanks, Joy. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so that's really interesting, Kevin. I had no idea. There's a lot. Flame King, 1 pound on Amazon, just like a regular 20-pound filling nose. Joy says she remembers those pump-up white gat devices. Yeah, they work good. Yeah, John says he added a fast coupler and gas hose. Used the RV LP tank for my outside cooking appliances. Scotty, you had mentioned in the video that I ran, I think it was Scotty, it might have been Gary, that of the video that I ran last night on the truck camper about that propane cylinder leaning up against the window. And that cylinder is like totally empty. But that was a cylinder that I used. My first in late 2013, I started a project in Denver. I was staying at Dakota Ridge. There are only 2 or 3 RV parks in the whole Denver metro area, which is surprising as heck to me. But I was staying at Dakota Ridge, which is over in Golden, right at the bottom of what they call Floyd Hill over there, which is when you come off of I-70 and you come down into Denver. You get right at the bottom there, and that's Golden, Colorado, home of Coors beer. And I couldn't have 100-pound propane tanks were banned by the local fire department. They wouldn't let us have a 100-pounder. I said, fine, so I went and bought a 60-pounder. Nobody could say anything about it. They said 100-pounder. I checked with the local fire authorities. It was a 100-pounder. I had that 60-pounder, and it worked perfectly. Yeah, that would be what I would do is if you have the shampooer, that would be fine. But test it in an area like a closet or something like that so you don't screw up, your ceilings. But yeah, that OxyClean, it's amazing stuff. In a pinch, that will work for borax in your holding tanks. I feel like maybe I might have skipped a few comments here. Let me just run back here. Fillable ones on Amazon. Yeah, interesting. So it's the transportation, huh, Tim? I'm sorry. I've closed. Let me go see what... Oh yeah, that's some serious noise. Okay, so Tim just shared this. Let me just pop this over real quick. That's where you got the number from. Okay, interesting, Tim. I was wondering where you got the $500,000 from. Let me pop over here. Kevin just sent this. I might have said Tim. I meant to say Kevin just sent this. 49 Code of Federal Regulations, Section 17865, Specification 39, non-reusable, non-refillable cylinders. The markings required this section must be durable and waterproof. The required markings are .39, blah, 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 blah. The test pressure for cylinders manufactured prior to October 96, federal law prohibits transportation if refilled, penalty up to $25,000 and 5 years imprisonment. Federal law prohibits transportation if refilled, penalty up to $500,000, 5 years. For cylinders manufactured after October 1, federal law prohibits transportation if refilled, penalty up to $500,000. Well, I guess the take-home message there is don't get caught. I'd still like to know if it's a refillable. Well, I suppose if it's a refillable, I don't know. But that's good information to know. Thanks. Yeah, Tim, you can always mail that to me. Yeah, Gary, Simple Green. Yeah, I haven't. Simple Green actually works pretty good, but like I said, I'm just not sure about if it's. I would start with OxyClean, Simple Green, Simple Purple, Orange Cleaner, my favorite Zep Orange Cleaner, all good degreasers. But if it's just getting yellow, I would try the OxyClean to start with. I agree with you, Montana Boy. How do they know? You gotcha. How do they know if you're refilling them? And as I said, how would they know? George, a.k.a. Dad, maybe a steam cleaner. That's not a bad idea. Dawn dish soap absolutely would work if it's grease. But Dawn dish soap wouldn't bleach it. And I think what we want here is a little bit of bleaching action to help take the yellowing out of the... Sorry. To take the yellow out of it. But yeah, you're right. I've seen hundreds of videos on it. In fact, I know a fellow RV'er or a YouTuber, Mark, over at Grand Adventure TV. Grand Adventures is his YouTube channel. He's a great guy. Puts out really good videos. But he has a video on his channel. At least he did. He may have taken it down. I don't know. On refilling those 1-pound cylinders. And if you have so good. All right, so we are at 8 o'clock. I am more than willing to hang out and chat with you guys more. If you're so inclined to throw a comment out there. I'm going to go back and scan the comments here because I think maybe I missed a few. Just to be case. Thanks for the reminder, Kevin, on those cylinders. All right. Any last minute questions? Cylinders are dated and must have the labels. Okay, good to know. Oh yeah, Tom Downey says one of his coach customers had a headliner that was so rotten it ripped when he tried to vacuum it. Yeah, that's why I say test it in an out of the place location. I'm with you, Montana Boy. I'm just sitting here, I haven't tried it, so maybe the Coleman has a one-way valve, right, that prevents them from being refilled. I don't know, but I'm sure I've seen videos on YouTube of people refilling those Coleman, the green Coleman cylinders. But the only thing I use those bottle propane for is like torches, and I did carry one of those. That I used for starting fires and stuff like that in fire pits. Gary C. says, Travel Supreme good? Don't know the reference. What is Travel Supreme? Yeah, Kev, that's a good point. You can always rewatch the video if you were late. It is instantly available as soon as this video ends. Oh, the buddy heaters. Okay. We'll talk about those just a second. You can always rewatch the video. In fact, there's a lot of folks that watch it during the week. It'll get another 200 or so views during the week. After it plays live on Tuesday nights. I have a lot of folks that watch it. Ben Emby is one who usually watches it in the replay. Carl Jones will watch it. Those guys have been watching the channel for years, and oftentimes they don't catch it on Tuesday night, but they'll watch it during the week. And so, yeah, you can always go back and rewatch the video. Or if you are so inclined, I keep a copy of them all for 6 months. Recorded, so when this is playing, it's also recording and being stored on a file server that I have sitting over here. A file server, fancy way to say I've got 8 USB portable drives on an old system that I had for years. My original workstation that sits over here, out of screen, out of sight, and I do. Use it like a file server, so I don't have 40 USB devices attached to my main workstation. I kept getting in trouble with that, causing trouble. So yeah, I can provide you with a replay if you like, if you want the actual video, but they'll be 3 to 4 gigabytes, which is a pretty good size video. Yeah, buddy heaters. Okay, the buddy heaters are good. I don't know the specific models. I've seen several videos on it. I was always concerned about people running them inside in a closed space, but apparently they're safe. That's about all I can say. I don't have a first-hand experience with them, but I think they're really effective. Two Feathers, didn't you buy one of those? Don't you have a buddy heater too? Maybe that was somebody else that's on the stream regularly, but I think somebody on the stream that's usually here regularly has one of those buddy heaters, and I would defer to them because I tend to like to only make recommendations and comments on stuff I have first-hand experience with. Yeah, good question, Tom. What's the cost of refilling or replacing them? I don't know. I mean, the refill widgets, you're probably $10. You're gonna need a hose of some sort, I guess. Another $10. I don't know. Tim says the only thing that he uses the number 1 cylinders on is a camp lantern that really never gets used anymore. Yeah, like I say, my Coleman lantern is a white gas pump up, and is my Coleman stove. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Oh, there. Okay, you did have one. You got rid of it too. All right, thanks. Buddy heater. We were talking about. Okay, so Montana Boy says he had to use it inside. That's where the sooty dark ceiling came from. I also sense that it's not good for you without a fresh air intake. Tom says what I always thought. They deplete the oxygen in the area that they burn. They have to. You have to have oxygen for combustion, period. I would recommend go out and check out Matt. Just 1 second here. Let me just do a real quick search here. He did a great... Okay, Undecided with Matt Farrell. Undecided with Matt Farrell. Excellent channel. And he did a very excellent video on it. But he was actually talking about cooking with magnets. You know how the induction stovetops are. Let me grab this link here and let me share it with you folks. Oops, come on, let me just grab the link. Okay, something that I didn't know was that not only is it carbon monoxide and those sorts of things, but there are all kinds of other fairly hazardous chemicals generated when you combust propane. And so I think that if you're going to have any kind of a propane combustion type heater inside any kind of a enclosed space, you better have some fresh air. And that's the smart way to do it. Gary C. says he has an opportunity to buy a Travel Supreme Motorhome 2003. Never heard of them. Anybody heard of the Travel Supremes? Not that I'm an expert on every RV out there, but I have not heard it. I would want to know the chassis. I would want to... Well, Gary, where you're at, here's what I would do. There's a fellow down there in the Phoenix area, AZ Expert. He's on YouTube. He's a RV repair tech. He does lots of RV inspections. He's got multiple videos on his channel. Reach out to him. He may want to do an inspection and a video on it. I don't know Travel Supreme. I don't know who makes it. But you know, on my list of potential topics that we've been chatting about, and that's going to be the last thing we're going to ask about tonight before we go, because it is getting to be pretty late, was how to purchase an RV. What things to look for and those sorts of things. It's on my list still because it's pretty, there's a lot that goes into it. And so, but I am working on that, and at some point I will have a topic of the evening about how to purchase. Next week is the topic of what's called ampacity, and that's how to size wires appropriately. So like if you're installing solar, if you're replacing battery cables, those sorts of things, how to properly size cables. That's going to be our topic next week. If you have a topic you'd like to see me cover, then I strongly encourage you to drop a comment, send me an email, trbolin@gmail.com, and suggest it. And because I'm open to any suggestion for these, the long form kinds of things, presentations that I've been trying to do now on the live stream. Try to have some kind of material prepared that we talk about for a few minutes, and then go over and work the chat for the rest of the show. Gary C., yeah, loves AZ Expert. Great channel. Good guy. Yeah, I would. Why not try to reach out to him? Ask him. He might want to do a video on it. And expect to pay a few dollars to get an RV inspected. I would not, knowing what I know today, I would not buy a used RV without having it inspected by a certified RV inspector. Period. I think if that's the one main thing that I could suggest to folks, if you're thinking about buying an RV, is get it inspected by a certified inspector. Period. But we're going to talk about that in the very near future. Okay. Uh-oh, that's right. I got a couple of electrical experts in here, so I better have my ducks in a row, huh? When we talk about ampacity. Eric wants me to discuss roadkill. What, the best way to fillet and fry? Question mark. Yeah, Joy, I think so too. I think it'll be a great topic. Fire hazard. I totally agree with you too. A fire hazard, a big fire hazard. Tom Downey, I'd agree with you. If it's burning, it's better outside. Yeah, two feathers. Yeah, I'd use it only if with ventilation. In Montana Boy, yeah, lots of chemicals, benzene, all kinds of stuff I know comes off those. They say it's safe, but my logic says otherwise. I agree with you, Montana Boy. Tom Downey, he says, I have an electric beehive heater. Here's what I used in my RV. This guy right here, Vornado. 1,500 watts, I think. With my bedroom door closed, it would heat the whole front of my RV, no problems whatsoever. Clear down to 20 degrees. And it would keep the RV nice and toasty warm. So, and it was about $75. And if you'd like to support the channel, use the link in this video to go to Amazon, and I'll get a small commission. You'll pay the same price. Wink, wink. Yeah, I don't know about inspections. I mean, it would probably be a good idea to have it inspected if it's brand new. But here's the deal, Tim. When you buy a brand new RV, typically you're going to get a 1-year warranty. And so hopefully a lot of the bad stuff will pop up in that 1 year. There's another channel I watch regularly. We'll go for a few more minutes here. There's still lots of folks engaged in talking with us, so that's good. But I watch Catherine Gregory. She's a RV vlogger on YouTube. She lived in a truck camper basically for a couple years and traveled around. And now she bought a travel trailer last year, and she was coming up on her 1-year anniversary, and she just did a video on it this last Sunday, I believe it was, about Catherine Gregory. It's a great channel. She does a lot of camping up here in Idaho. I think she's from California, but she does a lot in the West. And so she has a really compelling channel. I really like watching it. Macerators. Yeah, you know what? That might not be a bad one to talk about too at some point, Scotty, as a macerator. You know, I'll put that on the list. And we were chatting briefly about macerators last night on the premiere of the truck camper video that ran last night. Scott says, yeah, he agrees. If it's burning, leave it outside. Montana Boy liked my comment on roadkill. Roadkill is best skinned and deep fried in fat, lard. And sometimes they make good frisbees. We used to call them saucer squirrels when I was growing up, right? Tom Downey says, we got lucky when we bought Sight Unseen. Keep your ohms in a row. You can usually find certified inspectors all over, Joy. And in fact, what is it? What's the RV Inspectors Association? National RV Inspectors. They have a national association. There's a website. You can go in there. You can put where you want to find an inspector, and they'll tell you one that's close by. But they're all over the nation, Joy. Shouldn't, bigger towns obviously, but you can find them just about anywhere. And you'll spend anywhere from $200 to $500 for an inspection, and it's money well spent. It could save you $20,000 down the road easily if a good inspector found something you didn't want to have to deal with. Two Feathers says you got to be plugged in for those. Yes, you do, or have a good generator. Thanks, Tim. Joy, there's a link right there, nrvia.org/locate. Joy says she bought her RV without even a test drive. Probably wasn't a good idea. Well, I don't know. You know, the guy that bought my Class A bought it, well, almost sight unseen. I mean, it'd been on my channel for 6 years. All the projects and all the stuff I'd done on it. So, you know, I would have loved to have an inspector look at it. I don't think they would have found too much. There you go. My RV works. Darren might know. He is there in Port Angeles, Washington. Okay, good to know. All right. Great show tonight. Despite the fact that I've got a really bad cold, I think it's time to go eat a chocolate ice cream bar and watch a little bit of Dragnet or something. So we're going to call it good for tonight. Next week, we're going to be covering ampacity, how to select and size wire appropriately for electrical stuff that you're doing in your RV. Should be fascinating. Hope it is. And of course, your suggestions on the topics that we cover are always welcome. You can put them in the chat or you can email them to me again at trbolin@gmail.com. I'm usually pretty good about getting back to emails pretty fast. I would agree, Tom. I'm pretty mechanically inclined, so I think that I didn't have mine inspected either when I bought it in 2012. Okay, Kevin bought a used one, but he had a 1-year dealer warranty. Good to know. Great. Thanks, John, for your support. You're a great guy, and I always love you being here. Thanks, Gary. I will. Montana Boy says loves electrical. Good. Good night, Scott. Good night, Kevin. Good night, all. We'll call her good for tonight. I look forward to seeing you guys all here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. But for now, it's time to go. Bye-bye. Good night. Peace out.